Sometimes conflicts within a family are so quiet, inaudible to outsiders, yet so profound. Unspoken words accumulate, and misunderstood emotions weigh heavy on hearts. A small resentment can grow into walls. Even living in the same house, people can feel alienated from one another. Every tension is a sign of a scream waiting to be heard. But love doesn't disappear completely. It simply recedes into the background. Over time, everyone begins to examine their own inner selves. And then comes a time when the weariness behind the silence spills out into the open. At that moment, the first step toward healing is taken. On Thanksgiving evening, when my mother tapped her glass, everyone in the room turned to look at her. Her smile was the same as always, that special smile she used when she wanted to talk about Madison. Madison's wedding was amazing, she said loudly, as if everyone in the room needed to hear it. Then she looked at me. Claire, when's yours? A few people laughed. My dad continued carving the turkey as if it were an urgent task. Madison didn't say a word. He just looked at me. He was so attentive, so calm. Too calm. I put down my fork. The silence around the table was starting to suffocate me. But this time I wasn't going to run away. I already made mine, I said. My voice was calm, as if it were something casual. I sent you all invitations. The room was so silent that even the sound of breathing was audible. It was as if someone had snatched the air away. My father whispered, Claire, we didn't receive any invitations. That's when I reached into my bag, and all the things they had been hiding, ignoring, and disregarding began to surface. I learned something very early on growing up. My family loved symmetry, perfect photos, perfect stories, and Madison was at the center of every story. I don't think I suffered from that when I was little. I just thought that was how families worked. One child shines, the next makes room. I accepted it. Maybe I had to accept it. Madison's life was like a showcase. My mother organized every aspect of her dance lessons, drama club, awards, certificates. There was a gallery hanging in the hallway filled with Madison's accomplishments. Whenever I had accomplishments, my mother would smile politely and say, "We'll take pictures later." Now, I need good lighting for Madison's application photo. I didn't break this cycle. I adapted to it. I learned to watch, to learn, to predict, and to survive quietly. Seattle changed me. Commuting 3 hours for work wasn't rebellion. It was oxygen. I built my own life. A small apartment with wide windows, research notes everywhere, the smell of Jordan's coffee every morning. My environmental engineering job might not have impressed the people my mother wanted to impress, but it did matter to me. It made sense. And Jordan, he saw me like my family never did. He listened. He paid attention. He remembered. His family noticed me too, without me having to perform, just for being me. Jordan's mother, Donna, hugged me for the first time. She didn't let go right away. She hugged me, like my mother did, like, okay, there you go. She really hugged me warm and firm. She asked about my work. She remembered details. So did Jordan's father, Thomas. They weren't perfect, but they were there. And it was new. When Jordan proposed by the water on a foggy June morning, I said yes without hesitation. We didn't want a big ceremony. We chose a small beach chapel and invited people we truly knew. Everything was simple and genuine. My only silent wish was that my family and Madison would come. I thought maybe one day they'd choose me. I designed the invitations myself. I printed them early. I sent them with a signature-only option because my family is adept at losing useless things. I triple-checked the addresses. I ritually updated the tracking numbers. When everything showed up as delivered, I was breathless. Then came silence. No calls. No messages. Not even a simple congratulations in the family group chat. Weeks went by. The wedding passed. Still nothing. Myself 100 stories to avoid facing the truth. Maybe the mail got mixed up. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe they were waiting for the right moment. But deep down, a colder thought took root. Someone didn't want those invitations to be seen. And I didn't know how right I was until Thanksgiving night. The silence after the wedding didn't just stop there. It spread. It seeped into every corner of my life, like a slow leak. At first, I waited. People would be busy. I told myself. They'd call. They'd text. They'd at least ask why they hadn't received an invitation. But days turned into weeks. The silence grew heavier. It became deliberate. I tried to reach her. I called my mom, it went to voicemail. I texted my dad, he said, "I'll call you later." He didn't. The group chat. I couldn't see my name anymore. I wasn't removed loudly. I was deleted quietly. I told Jordan one evening while I was washing dishes. Trying to sound casual, I said, maybe it was a mistake. But my voice gave me away. He dried his hands. He looked at me. "Claire, did they ever reply to you about the invitations?" I nodded. "Not once." "Let's check the records," he said. She helped me review email activity logs, something I wouldn't have known how to do on my own. And there it was, family email access logs. An invitation notification had been opened, deleted, permanently deleted. The timestamp was clear. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't forgetfulness. Someone had made a special effort to avoid seeing my messages. And the worst part was, I already knew who it was. I could picture Madison standing in the kitchen of our childhood home, sifting through mail, controlling the flow of communication. She was always the gatekeeper, the one mom trusted, the one dad asked to sort through bills, the one who filtered calls and decided what was worthy of dinner. If anything was going to pass through that house, it would pass through Madison first. The more I thought about it, the more it all clicked into place, and my stomach turned. She was preparing for her own massive September wedding, 350 guests, designer dress, everything special. Her entire identity revolved around being in the spotlight. My wedding, even small and quiet, had the potential to distract from hers. Madison didn't share attention easily. Still, I needed proof. I pulled out the tracking receipts. I had recorded 4 packages, 4 signatures. The sender was me. The recipient's address was their home, and the signature at the bottom. I recognized it immediately. It was Madison's. I looked at the cursiveness of his handwriting. My throat tightened. He hadn't just forgotten. He hadn't just lost it. He had blocked them. He made sure no one saw my wedding. Jordan touched my arm gently. "Claire, what do you want to do?" I didn't have an immediate answer. Anger would have been easier. Wrath would have been logical. But what I felt was deeper, sharp, and old. A familiar wound was being reopened. What do you do when the people you love choose not to see you? Thanksgiving was coming up. I almost skipped it. I almost let them think I didn't exist. But then, it was the gaming that was creating this mess. I made a different choice. I left, and I carried the truth with me. When the peace within a home is disrupted, everyone feels it. Laughter is replaced by tension, and conversations become short and tired. No one can convey their intentions. No one can articulate their feelings. Behind every argument lies an unspoken need. One's fear of not being heard, the other's fear of not being seen. Over time, these fears grow and distance people. But no distance is as permanent as love. Even in the most difficult moments, hearts find a way to reach each other. And eventually, even the quietest confrontation becomes the beginning of a solution. Thanksgiving table. Thanksgiving always looked perfect from the outside: white tablecloth, shiny silverware, a flickering candle in the middle. But the moment I walked through the door, I felt it. An old, unspoken tension settled on my shoulders like a familiar coat I never wanted. Madison was already posing by the fireplace. Her husband, Ryan, was smoothing her hair as if they were drawing holiday cards. My mother was hovering over the turkey, recounting every detail of Madison's September wedding to everyone within earshot. My father was mechanically pouring wine, his eyes already tired. No one asked how I was. No one mentioned the wedding they missed. I sat across the table from Madison. She didn't look at me. She didn't have to. Silence can be a performance, and she was always good at performing. Dinner began with the usual script: compliments on Madison's dress, the venue, the guest list, her connections. Each sentence was a reminder that they had come for her, time and again, without hesitation. Yet they hadn't bothered to acknowledge a single detail of my life-changing day. Then my mother tapped her glass. "Your sister's wedding was amazing," she said brightly, looking at Madison for confirmation. "So, Claire, when is yours?" The table laughed. Even the turkey knife in my father's hand seemed unsure which side to hold. Madison didn't look up from her plate. So calm, so attentive. That said it all. For years, I'd just laugh it off. I'd let the teasing sink into my skin, pretending it didn't hurt. But not this time. Not after everything they'd buried. I gently put down my fork. "I made mine," I said, my voice steady. 6 months ago. The change in the room was instantaneous, as if all the air had been sucked out of it. I waited a moment, letting the silence settle. Then I added, I sent an invitation. The forks froze. Their eyes widened. Mom's smile faltered. Dad blinked, as if unsure if he'd heard correctly. Across from me, Madison's face remained motionless. This was the sign he knew exactly where this was going, and he couldn't stop it. Claire, my father said carefully, we never received an invitation. The story they'd rehearsed before they even knew it was scripted. Something settled inside me. Not anger, not revenge, clarity. I figured you'd say that, I said softly. I reached into my bag without rushing, without drama, and set my phone on the table. The screen flashed. It was reflected in the glass. The candlelight caught its edges like a knife. Every pair of eyes locked on it. This was the line I hadn't crossed before, the line I hadn't drawn. The moment I stopped allowing myself to be rewritten, and as I tapped the screen, opening the receipts, the truth rose in my chest like a tide ready to break. But this time I was ready. When my thumb touched the screen, the room changed. It wasn't noisy. It wasn't chaotic. It was like the stillness of a storm just before it flattens a coastline. The receipts unfolded into a neat list. 4 deliveries, 4 signatures, all marked received. I zoomed in on the first one and turned my phone so the whole table could see it. The signature at the bottom was undeniable. Fluent, confident handwriting. Madison. My mother moaned softly, her hand flying to her mouth. My father leaned forward, as if seeing the truth up close wouldn't count. Ryan straightened in his chair, his eyes darting from the screen to his wife as if someone were suddenly speaking a language he didn't know. Madison didn't even move. Her face didn't twitch. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, but my voice sounded very calm. Very. These were delivered on April 23rd, I said. 4 invitations, signed by Madison. Again, profound silence. But this time it wasn't a surprise. It was a revelation. Claire, my father whispered, This has to be a mistake. No, I said, scrolling to the next screenshot. This is a tracking record from the mail service. Priority mail. Signature required. All confirmed. All delivered. I paused, then added quietly, and all blocked. My mother shook her head. No, that doesn't make sense. Madison would never. Stop it, I said gently, not harshly. I was just done. You keep saying things Madison wouldn't do, but you never actually look at what you're doing. This one sat down. My mother froze. Ryan finally spoke, his voice low. Madison, did you sign these? Madison blinked, not slowly, not thoughtfully, mechanically, as if she were trying to restart her expression. I don't remember. Maybe. I got the mail sometimes, but I never saw any invitations. I remained silent. I had learned long ago that silence sometimes speaks louder than any accusation. I let it sit. Dad now looked at Madison sternly and said, You didn't see the 4 packs from your sister around the time you knew she was engaged. It's not my job to keep track of everyone's mail. Madison snapped the first crack in her composition, sharp enough. The wrong move. My mother reached for him. Honey, no, I said, my voice still calm. Let him talk. He's been talking for years. Madison glared at me. What does that mean? I didn't answer the question. I moved on to the last screenshot, the email log Jordan had helped me access. This, I said quietly, is the activity log for the family email account. The wedding announcement email I sent in April was opened from this house, then promptly deleted. My father's jaw tightened. Who has access to this account? Everyone at the table knew the answer. Everyone always knew the answer. Madison finally cracked. I didn't delete anything, she said very quickly. I tilted my head. So why is it showing your device ID? His mouth opened, closed, and opened again. Maybe I clicked by mistake. I don't know. Why are you attacking me? I'm not attacking you, I said. I'm showing you what you're doing. My mother exhaled sharply. Why would Madison keep your invitations? Why would she sabotage your wedding? This is ridiculous. She'd polished throughout my life the defense she'd used for every wound Madison had inflicted on me. Why? I repeated. Because my wedding was in June. Hers was in September. I turned to Madison. Because you didn't want anyone to talk about yours before mine. Madison flinched as if I had slapped her with the truth. The truth she was trying to escape. This is crazy, Madison hissed. You always twist everything and make me look bad. No, I said, my voice steady. You did this to yourself. Ryan's chair skidded back to the floor. He stood up. Madison, is this true? Madison looked down at her napkin, her breath shaking. Everyone always thinks Claire is so innocent. She doesn't need anything. She doesn't want anything. She doesn't hurt anyone. She just exists and makes everyone. What am I making myself do? I asked softly. She jumped to her feet. It makes you feel guilty. It makes you feel small, like you don't even have to try. There it was. The real confession. Not about the invitations, but about every year that came before them. I leaned back slightly. So you hid my wedding because of what? Because it was quiet? Because it didn't compete with your 6-tiered cake and rented string orchestra? This isn't, he breathed. But the truth was already hanging in the air, like smoke. Claire, my father said desperately, we didn't know. If we had known, you would come. I finished for her. After you missed every important moment for years. After you forgot every birthday. After you made sure Madison's needs always came first. He closed his eyes. My mother's face contorted. You can't blame all this on us. We did the best we could. No, I said. You did the best you could for Madison. You did the minimum for me and called it justice. Madison sat up abruptly. Her shoulders slumped. Even she couldn't defend herself. The weight of decades pressed down on my chest, no longer as sadness, but as clarity. I looked at each of them, people I'd spent years silently wishing would see me. And finally, I told them the truth. I didn't lose my family tonight, I said. I just stopped pretending I had a family. My mother groaned. Claire, don't talk like that. Why? I said. Because does it threaten the narrative you've constructed? The one where Madison is perfect. Your father is neutral. You're the peacemaker. And I'm the problem. Nobody said you were the problem, my father whispered. You didn't have to tell me, I replied. You just showed me over and over again. Ryan sank back into his chair, as if watching pieces of his marriage disintegrate into a shape he didn't recognize. Madison whispered, Claire, please. That one word, please, carried years of fear, guilt, and the sudden realization that his control was gone. I stood slowly, pushing my chair back with a gentle scrape. I'm tired of begging for a place at this table, I said. I'm tired of asking you to come for me. I'm tired of pretending that Madison's choices don't hurt me. I'm tired of accepting your silence as anything but an agreement. I took a breath. I'm tired. My father stood up and lay down. Claire, don't go. We can talk. We're talking, I said, for the first time and the last time under these circumstances. Tears welled up in my mother's eyes. We can fix this. You can't fix something you refuse to accept, I replied. And you refused for years. I picked up my coat, feeling lighter with every inch. I draped it over my shoulders. As I walked toward the door, I heard Madison sobbing softly. I heard my mother murmur my name, almost as if in prayer. I heard my father say, we should have checked. We should have questioned. But their regrets were no longer my responsibility. I opened the door. Cold air rushed in, and I paused just long enough. You didn't miss my wedding. You chose not to see it. Then I stepped out. I let the door close. Not loudly, not dramatically, just firmly. A clean final line was drawn. And for the first time in my life, the silence that followed was mine. Sometimes there are moments in life when a person builds a wall to hide their feelings. They neither want to say nor make others realize their silence. They live in a silence caught in between. Everything seems fine, but inside the heart is something else entirely. Shattered hopes, postponed dreams, and unspoken sentences weigh a person down. But even within this weight, a light never fades. As time passes, the inner turmoil seeks a way to resolve itself. One begins to understand oneself, then rebuilds the world. One takes one step, then another, and the story begins to move towards a completely different place. A fresh start. Jordan opened the door before I reached it, as if listening for my steps. He glanced at me and didn't ask what was wrong. He simply wrapped his arms around me and held me until I stopped shaking. No questions, no judgment, just being there, something my family never mastered. The next morning, his family invited us to a simple breakfast. No ceremony, no pity, just hot food, real conversation, and the kind of attention that didn't have to be earned. Donna shook my hand and said, "Your family here, not because you married my son, because you're important." A week later, Madison sent a long email. It reeked of therapy, soft apologies, and more acceptance than I'd expected. I read it. I didn't respond. My dad called every few days. Small steps, careful steps. I let him try. Then he found one of my wedding invitations, buried in a storage bin in the garage, proof of everything I already knew. He quietly mailed it to me without comment. It was the closest he'd ever come to a genuine apology. My mother never arrived, and for the first time, that absence didn't feel like a wound. It felt like an answer. I once believed that family was something to be protected at all costs. But now, standing in my own home, Jordan cooking dinner, laughter filtering through from the friends who choose me every day, I finally understood the truth. Family isn't about sharing your blood. It's about those who come, listen, and stay. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who never learned how to hold you. If any part of this sounds familiar, share where you watched it and your story below. And don't forget to subscribe for the next video. I'll never forget that first morning at Jordan's house. Donna was in the kitchen making pancakes and Thomas was making coffee. Soft music was playing on the radio. It was all so ordinary, so normal. But to me, it felt as real as anything I'd experienced in years. Donna handed me a plate. "Do you want honey or maple syrup?" she asked, and I couldn't understand why such a simple question had brought me to tears. Because she wasn't just asking, she genuinely cared. She would remember my answer. She would remember it next time. "I love you both," I said, feeling my voice tremble. "Then you'll have both," he said with a smile. And so I did. Jordan held my hand under the table. It was a warm, steady touch. He didn't need to say anything to me. Just being there was enough. His silent support was more valuable than all the empty promises I'd received from my parents over the years. Thomas raised his glass. "To new beginnings," he said, "and to the people who are actually here." I raised my glass, and for the first time, I felt like I truly belonged somewhere. Communications from my family. Madison's mail arrived 3 days later. It was long, too long. Every paragraph was about apologies, regrets, and her own struggles. How she felt she had to be perfect all the time. How she was afraid of my quiet strength. How she'd started therapy. "Claire," he wrote, "losing you forced me to confront myself, and I didn't like what I saw. You're right. You've always been right. An apology can't bring you back, but I want you to know I saw you. I finally, really saw you." I read it twice. Then I hung up and didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe never. Because Madison's recovery journey was her responsibility, not mine. I had to focus on my own recovery. My dad was different. He kept calling. He sent texts. Short, careful texts. "I miss you. How are you? Can we talk?" I didn't answer at first, but one day, 3 weeks later, I called back. It was difficult talking. There were moments of silence, but it was real, and at least he was trying. "I was cleaning out that box in the garage," he once said, "and I found one of your invitations. It was there. It was there the whole time, and I never saw it." His voice broke, and in that breaking, I heard something I hadn't seen in years: true regret. "I want you to mail it to me," I said. "Not to keep, just as a reminder." "Okay," he said. "I'll remember. I promise, Claire. I'll remember." The invitation arrived a week later. Inside was a small note. "I'll never miss it again, Dad." I haven't forgiven him yet, but the door was slightly ajar now. And my mom. The silence continued. No calls, no texts, no emails. And you know what? I was fine, really fine, because I finally realized that her love was conditional. It always was. And I was tired of trying to meet her conditions. Some stories appear simple on the outside, but carry great storms within. While a person may appear strong on the outside, only they know what they are struggling with inside. Each day they become more worn down, but somehow they try to survive. Deep down, they feel a change, but they can't figure out what this change means. One day, they are forced to confront certain truths. This confrontation is painful, but it also heals, because each answer illuminates a person's path a little further, and the story moves to a new phase as the person begins to make peace with themselves, This is the quietest yet most powerful transformation. Today, Jordan and I are walking on the beach, like we do every Sunday morning. We grab our coffees, take off our headphones, and just talk. About anything. About nothing. Just together. Last week, we saw a couple young, happy, asking a stranger for help taking a photo. Jordan helped them. I watched them take their photo. The way they looked at each other, the way they laughed. And I thought, I hope their family has support. I hope they don't feel as alone as we did. Because marriage is hard enough. It's even harder without the people you love. But you know what I learned? Sometimes blood family doesn't see you. And the family you choose sees everything. Donna and Thomas come to our place for dinner every Friday. It's simple pasta salad. But we sit around the table and really listen to each other. We share stories. We laugh. And no one's performing. We're all just people. I cried when I saw our wedding photo hanging in their house. Donna noticed me and came over. I look at it every day, she said. And every day, I think about how lucky we are to have someone like you in our family. That's when I realized, family doesn't always come from where you are. Sometimes it comes from where you're going. What I want to tell you, if this story sounds familiar to you, if you've ever felt invisible in your family, if you've ever felt like others were a priority, if you've ever felt alone in important moments, I want you to know, it's not your fault. You never had it. Some families don't know how to love. Some people don't know how to see. And that's not something you have to fix. It's not a burden you have to carry. You have only one job. Take care of yourself. Set boundaries. And make room for the people who truly love you. Because real family is not forced. It is not begging. It is not performance. Real family is a choice. It is existence. It is love. And you deserve it. You always have. My life has changed since that Thanksgiving evening. Madison is still in therapy. Dad still calls. Mom is still silent. But I no longer see their choices as a measure of my worth. Because now I know my value is so much greater than what they can see. And so is yours. Now I want to ask you a question. What happened at your Thanksgiving table? What truths do you hope to uncover? What boundaries do you need to draw? This story resonated with you, write it in the comments. Tell me where you watched it. Share your story. Because speaking out is the first step to healing. You love these kinds of real, raw, emotional stories, hit subscribe. New stories will arrive here every week. Stories of people like you who are learning to survive, heal, and find true love. Click the bell icon, because the next story might be even more similar to yours. And remember, you are not alone. You are visible. You matter. Don't let any family table make you forget this. We're getting ready for Jordan's birthday party today. Donna's bringing the cake. Thomas is blowing up the balloons. Our friends are coming, real friends. People who love me, laugh at me, and really know me. When the doorbell rings, I run to open it. And when I do, what I see stops me in my tracks. My father, a small gift package in his hand. I wasn't invited, he says quietly, but I thought I should come here to celebrate Jordan and to see you. Jordan comes over to me. He takes my hand. Come in, he says, and my father comes in. It was the first time someone from my family came for me, without waiting for an invitation, without being forced. He just came. This doesn't fix everything. It doesn't change the past. But it's a start. And sometimes beginnings are enough. I close the door. The music starts. The laughter begins. And this time, I'm among that laughter. Completely, finally seen. Where I belong. As time passes, a person sometimes realizes they've forgotten themselves. The hustle and bustle of life, unexpected events, and hidden emotions slowly accumulate. At some point, these accumulated emotions force a person to stop. What lies hidden in that pause is, in fact, a desire for rebirth. They think silently, take a deep breath, and begin to listen to the voices within. Every emotion carries meaning. Every disappointment leaves a lesson. And over time, the heart remembers its forgotten strength. This remembrance is the person's resumption of their journey. And at this very moment, the story continues with a new breath. And so, with its own quiet rhythm, the story approaches its final page. Every emotion, every rupture, every tiny shred of hope becomes part of a whole. While one may sometimes think they're walking this path alone, each step actually carries them to a stronger place. Dark moments pass, heavy feelings ease, and the knots in their hearts slowly unravel. No pain lasts forever. No storm keeps the sky permanently gray. And finally, one rediscovers the light within themselves. That light reminds them that the path continues. It whispers that the future is still filled with hope. The story may end here, but the journey never ends. Because every ending is, in fact, a very quiet doorway to a new beginning.